Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stand Up Speakeasy. I am Sreth Nay, and every single Stand Up Speakeasy, I bring in a comic from the Central Time Zone because I was supposed to go on tour, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, but the pandemic hit and I couldn't do it. So I decided to interview everyone from home, and so this is the easiest way to go. So, ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is Greg. Greg, how are you?
Hey, what's going on? I'm doing all right. How's it going, Sarath?
I'm doing quite well. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Indeed. And I was looking through your bio and I'm like, he does have a voice for radio. And I checked out your SoundCloud and you got some really cool stuff on there too. So you're
Oh,
an honor.
yeah, I haven't updated that SoundCloud in a while, but yeah, I do have some audio bits up there too.
Indeed, most definitely. So you're an on-air talent and a music director at WPNA 103.1 FM in Chicago. And what's it like being working for them and all that good stuff?
Well, it's something that I uh, I got into radio just in general, based off of the fact that didn't really have any other talents or things that I was passionate about after college or after high school. So got into radio broadcasting. Ended up working at a radio station up in Wisconsin, middle of nowhere, up in Wisconsin, Manitowoc. Um, that did that for about a year, then came back down here. I've been at this station for about 3 years now, and it's a cool time. You get to just have fun, and as far as radio goes, it is challenging, but it's fun at the end. You get to have a lot of fun on the mic.
Absolutely. And when you were in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, you were the former director at WCUB at 980 AM. What are some stories from that chapter?
Manitowoc, Wisconsin. If you're not familiar with it, I'm sure like this year we had the documentary Tiger King. That was everyone's favorite. A few years ago, you probably remember one called Making a Murderer.
Yep.
That's where Manitowoc, Wisconsin is. I actually lived up there lived up there for a year. Didn't know anything about the whole murder of Stephen Avery and everything. Didn't know anything about it. It was a very small, sleepy town. About 30-some thousand people. The radio station reached a lot of rural communities, so that's why I was the farm director, reporting on farm news, stock prices of milk, corn, whatever else that they were growing at that time, and then going around interviewing farmers to do like a farm of the month segment. Each month I would go and go to one of these farms and interview these people about what they're doing. It was one of those learning experiences because it was a great start to my radio career, I guess. Got a chance to learn a lot of things. And also, I was on air at a country station outside of the farm stuff, so it was a fun experience. Something that I never thought I'd get into: country radio and reporting on farm news, coming from Chicago. But we did it. It was stressful, but hey, those are learning steps that you got to take in this career that you're choosing.
Indeed. When I lived in Colorado, we were like next to a bunch of farms and they were known for their green chili. And it was just,
Oh man, Colorado. I love me some chili. And when I was in Colorado, the green chili, because that's regional, right?
yep,
Colorado and New Mexico, I think.
yep, we have a war with them, I guess. So, indeed. If you ever go
Yeah,
back to Pueblo, Colorado, you gotta try Slopper. It's like an open faced burger with green chili smothered on it. It's fantastic.
I'll have to try that. If you ever go to Wisconsin, try cheese curds, which I don't like, but it's if you're in Wisconsin, you have to get cheese curds. But as a Chicagoan, no, I'm not a fan.
Indeed. And so we have some viewers in the audience. So if you want to chime in on the comments in the live chat, you're more than welcome to, but be nice to us because there's trolls out there. So I always tell them be nice to us. So you're also a graduate of the Illinois Center for Broadcasting at the Chicago campus. And what made you pick the school and the major and stuff?
It wasn't really a major. It's more of a certificate that in this course. It was a 1-year course, crash course on TV, radio, and internet or radio hosting. I did a lot of it was more of like a hands-on kind of program. So in most other colleges, you'll do like the first year and a half or 2 years of just studying the theory of radio and TV and history and things of that sort. Here, we got a lot of that, a crash course on learning all of the basics and knowledge of production. And then we got a lot more hands-on kind of practice, you know, actually producing audio bits, producing commercials, things like that. So that place actually did help me a lot as far as well, just learning basics that you need as far as production and audio, video, things of that sort. I also had a career services director guy. He actually helped me a lot with a lot of job searches. He's the reason that I got that job in Manitowoc, because he actually knew the president of that company. So he just called. He said, "Hey, I got someone over here that might be willing to go move up there for you." So that place actually did give a lot of help to start the career, even though it was only a 1-year crash course. But now, yeah, you got the crash course, and now just got to take advantage and keep moving forward.
Absolutely, indeed. And so it's pretty neat that you connect with all the audiences out there, with either just the farm or the radio, out in, you know, within the farm community in Wisconsin, and what you're currently doing now. And so that's pretty neat of you. And so you're definitely expanding your horizons for sure. That's pretty neat.
The horizons are expanding, but you know, maybe there's got to be some kind of a focus in the end. I don't know. It's all over the place sometimes. First, you start off with country radio and farm reporting. Then I'm at this station in Chicago that's the format is Polish American mix, because I'm of Polish background. So and there is a huge Polish American population in Chicago. So it's kind of like I'm going all over the place. I'm going from country reporting and farm reporting to Polish American, and it's still not where I want to be. But these are definitely the steps worth taking.
Absolutely, every step is worth taking for sure. And that's what I majored in college, was mass comm with an emphasis in broadcast journalism.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a journalist, and I just, you know, it's a lot of fun. I remember taking radio classes there, and my DJ name was DJ Livewire.
DJ Livewire, nice.
Yeah, because my teacher had all the students pick out their favorite songs, and so all my favorite songs were live versions of songs. So that's why I picked Livewire and stuff.
Nice.
There was like Tool on there, POD, and a bunch of other people like Sasha from like Sasha and John Digweed fame, and just all these different genres mixed onto this one CD. And he was like, "Wow, this is pretty neat," you know.
Yeah, see if you have a copy and send it over my way.
Indeed. Hopefully I'll reach out to my old teacher and see if he has it, because I can't find it anymore. It's been like 10 years or 11 years already. So.
Oh, yeah. I have a lot of material that I recorded from back in the day when I even started at that school. And it just sounds terrible now. You know, you don't go back that far.
Indeed, most definitely. So outside of radio, you've been producing, hosting, and performing a bunch of successful stand-up comedy shows in Chicago. And what are some of your favorite ones that you produced, hosted, and performed at?
Well, thanks for saying that they're successful. Sometimes I didn't feel that way at times, but no, they were pretty good. I started out with the first thing I ever produced was kind of a thanks to the station that I'm at, the Polish American mix. There's a lot of Polish Americans that listen to us, and there's this one biker group of Polish background called the Soku Riders Club. They have a clubhouse which they split into two sections. First, when you walk into the clubhouse, there's a bar area, and then the second area is a big stage area. So when I went there, they knew of me. They knew I was on the radio and I do comedy, and they kind of asked me to produce something, you know, make a show. And I've never done that, and I've never did that. And that was 2 years ago, 2018, so 3 years ago now. And that was my first time producing a show. I did it with a buddy of mine, Andre Hashem. He and I had a lot of trouble with that first show, but once you produce something and it turns into a huge success, because we had over 60 people and standing room only in that smaller kind of room. Once you produce something like that and it turns out to be a huge success, it's just kind of like a drug. You want more and more and more. So that turned into a recurring quarterly kind of show. I did it like every 3 months over there. And at a Polish biker bar, it was kind of an interesting, I guess, setting too for a lot of the comedians who don't know anything about Polish culture or like the aggressiveness of Polish bikers and stuff. So that was the first thing that I produced. Had a lot of fun there, and Polish bikers love to drink. So if you are going to be performing on that show ever again, then expect to get drunk. Started off with that one, which turned into a huge success. Then I did I did an open mic, killing it at the Kedzie Inn, which with that was just, you know, an open mic, not much to talk about with like production or too many people, but well, the people that actually did come over there really enjoyed it. We had a really cool special too for the best set of the night. You would get a beer, a shot, and a Chicago-style hot dog. Normally $8. You'll get it for free if you got the best set of the night. So I attracted like a lot of broke comics to come out there. And then this past year was one of my favorite experiences. Even though with this pandemic coming and ruining comedy in Chicago, because I know, like you said, you're in Florida, a lot of places are still open. Everything was basically shut down here since like March of last. It started in like St. Patrick's weekend last year, where basically everything shut down and nobody could do anything. So people started resorting to Zoom comedy, doing shows on Zoom, which there's a huge debate over it in the comedy scene, whether or not to do Zoom or live comedy. Like there is a big rift in the comedians in Chicago, but we ended up having the idea to go, and me and my co-producer Johnny Cosmo, he ended up having the idea of getting a PA, just going out to a park and telling jokes in a park. He got the idea from Dave Chappelle. Apparently Dave Chappelle did that because Chappelle basically started his own comedy shows in Ohio, right? So basically my buddy, my co-producer had the idea, and I guess he was the ideas guy, I was the action guy, because we whatever idea he had, I kind of helped put it into action. And we started off with just doing a regular open mic in a park. That was just, hey, friends, let's go hang out and tell some jokes in a park. Whether or not people want to listen, cool. And that started in about June of this past year. We kept doing maybe 2 mics a week, depending on the weather. And eventually it grew into more and more people in the Chicago scene started developing open mics outdoors and shows outdoors. And so that grew into a huge thing in Chicago, outdoor comedy, which I really want to do that again, even after this pandemic is over and we are in a much more safer environment. People are still going to want to do outdoor comedy because we ended up doing weekly shows. We did a mic a week and a show a week starting in September. And for that September and October, August, September, October, those 3 months, we basically went to a park and had hundreds of people show up in the middle of a pandemic to sit down and watch comedy. And we were safe about it, though. You know, everyone was socially distanced except for their own little groups. Everyone was wearing masks when they were walking around. We disinfected the microphones in between each comics and just ran a successful show. I never thought anything of it would come of it, based off of the fact that me and my co-producer and like 5 people came out to the first mic, but it turned into a huge thing. And that was one of many shows in the comedy scene in Chicago this past year, and I really can't wait to get back to it. So that's basically my production kind of history in comedy.
Awesome stuff. And you've also brought in like nationwide touring comics to your shows as well. And which are some of your favorite national touring comics that you brought onto your shows?
Ooh, wow, that's a good one. I think I gotta say, like, Rena Calm was one of my favorites because when I started comedy about 2015, there was this small little theater up on the northwest side of Chicago, the Whip Theater. And she was one of the people that I really liked watching. She had a lot of punny humor, lots of funny turns of phrases, and just like my kind of humor. And eventually, when we finally somehow got her onto the show, I was very ecstatic, excited. She came. She always has like this little traveling suitcase with like with her merch inside of it. So like she'll have a table, set down the suitcase, open it up, and then after the show, people will come and buy some merch. So she's one of my favorites. Um, this guy actually did like a international tour once. John McCombs, he did a European tour the year before this pandemic, and he has a lot of success. He does run a successful podcast too. John McCombs and Rena Cohn were one of my favorites as far as like the national touring ones.
Indeed, I remember performing with Rena Calm in Jacksonville when I was on my own tour. Our
Nice.
tours met together at Rain Dogs in Jacksonville, and we had like a showcase in the beginning, and an open mic in the end called Hot Potato Comedy Show, and it was super dope. So it was
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, she's great. She's one of my favorites.
Most definitely, mine too. Her puns are hilarious. Indeed. So, and I'm glad you're like you're venturing off on to all these forms of entertainment, whether it's radio or stand up, and just branching out in all sorts of directions. It's fantastic to see.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and then you're also reaching out on social media, and I saw like your Instagram and all that stuff, and how it was outdoors and with your open mics and all that good stuff, and
Oh
keeping
yeah.
comedy alive.
I don't think I gave you the Instagram to the one that we produced this last year, Out in the Open Mic. It's at Out in the Open Mic on Instagram. It's got basically every time that we did a show or an open mic, we had a lot of pictures, so we had to produce them all time. Yeah, every day.
Awesome, good stuff. And so when I was planning on going on tour, these are the questions I was hoping to ask you because I asked every comedian that I've ever interviewed, and there's like 600 of them of these interviews on my YouTube channel. So, with that being said, Greg, what inspired you to perform stand-up comedy?
Um, that's an interesting question because I just finished. I finished about like a year working at that station in Manitowoc, and I got let go from that station. So when I got back, I was just unsure of what to do with my career, with what to do next as far as radio, as far as whatever else. And this goes back to that one theater, the Whip Theater, because my friend actually worked over there. It was run by a couple of very cool people, and comedians would be working there for shows and actually like at the bar or whatever. So when my friend was hosting a few shows, I'd always go and check them out. It took me about like half a year to just go to open mics and go to shows and just enjoy watching this stuff, to be like, all right, well, I'll go give it a shot. And yeah, I started from there. So that was during my time off between radio stations, and I'm still doing it.
Indeed, most definitely. And what was the feeling like when you first performed stand-up?
Nerve-wracking. I mean, that's everyone, isn't it? Like, you're just so nervous. Anyone who comes in with confidence to the stage on their first time, you're not going to do good. You're not going to do well. You come in with that over too much cockiness, people aren't going to like, if I don't know. Yeah, it's always nerve-wracking. And I think I've heard like a quote of like Bob Hope, who like always did like the USO tours and everything, that even though he's been doing it for 50 plus years, every time he would still get on the stage, it still is a little nerve-wracking. If you're not nervous before going on stage, you're not doing it right. And so, yeah, it was definitely very nerve-wracking. You still get that, not as much, but yeah, I would freeze. I wouldn't freeze on stage. I would freeze in my head and just be like, okay, all right, what to do next? Yeah, but you get over it with practice. Practice makes perfect, I guess.
Absolutely, indeed. And what are your favorite comedy specials and comedy record albums?
Ooh, comedy specials. The first thing that just popped into my head right now is George Carlin, Carlin at Carnegie. That was one of his earlier ones in the 70s, and it was one of my favorites watching when I was like young, when I was a teenager. I like growing up, I guess. we all liked Dane Cook. That's kind of what inspired me to go be an asshole on stage, you know. Sorry, I didn't mean to curse, but yeah, just being an idiot on stage, I guess. That's I remember growing up. Well, when I was a teenager, listening to him. Who else? I got to say Bill Burr. You know, he's got that candidness that he doesn't really like filter him anything that he says, and he always makes it hilarious. Um, yeah, no, don't include Dane Cook in my top three, okay? Don't include Dane Cook. And yeah, Eddie Murphy's Raw. Eddie Murphy's Raw was great in that jumpsuit. You know, you'd be watching that special as a kid and not knowing what he'd be talking about, but then like later on, as an adult, you're watching it and you're like, oh, okay, that was funny at the time. Can't really say that right now.
Indeed, most definitely. And let's see here. If you can go on tour with any comedians locally and internationally known, which comedians would you like to go on tour with?
Oh man. Outside of all the people that I've produced shows with, because almost all of them are like hilarious people to me, and that's obviously why you want to produce a show, because you have that respect for them. So almost everyone that I've produced shows with, Andre Hashem, Johnny Cosmo, yeah, definitely a lot of people like that. As far as like, I do appreciate if I could go on tour. I don't know if I'm at that level, but I definitely like to go with a couple of people, like maybe like a Joe Kilgallen from the Chicago scene, because he's got a big name here. Definitely like Arena Calm, and John McCombs, like I mentioned earlier. As far as bigger names, I don't know who I could even like equate to. I don't know who I'd be able to open up for. Yeah, I really wouldn't be able to tell you as far as bigger names, because I don't have that high of an opinion of myself at the moment, as far as the comedy goes.
Indeed, excellent choices with Rena. I follow her on Instagram. She's everywhere. It's
Yeah.
amazing, and let's see here. What are your favorite sitcom sketch shows and comedy films?
Oh wow. Okay, so I'll just give you like the answers that are just coming to me right as you're asking them. There's a show on Netflix. It was from Britain on the BBC called People Just Do Nothing, and it's about this underground underground radio station. They're like an indie rap hip hop kind of station from South London. So you got that South London accent, and it makes people sound really dumb sometimes. So that was an entertaining show. Other sitcoms, definitely like a Mr. Show. You got like the sketch shows that are classic. Mr. Show, Upright Citizens Brigade. Those little sketch comedy shows were always great. Just little joke sketch here. All right, let's move on to the next. No matter how absurd it is, and that absurdity sometimes is just hilarious. And then as far as a new one goes, this one came out on Netflix recently. Another sketch comedy group, Auntie Donna. They on Netflix, it's Auntie Donna's Big Old Fun House or something like that. They're a sketch comedy group. Yeah, sketch comedy is good, because you got like a concept. You could relate in that one scene, and make a joke, kind of a living scene. So I do appreciate those. As far as sitcoms, I'll tell you, I'm not into Seinfeld. I never grew up watching Seinfeld, so let's eliminate that. Huh. Let's see. Yeah, Seinfeld wasn't really for me. Yeah, I can't tell. I'm drawing a blank with sitcoms, but I do appreciate sketch comedy shows. The Mr. Show, the things like that. Those are like, I like that level of absurdity at times.
Indeed, in comedy films.
Um, I guess because of the time that I was growing up, Judd Apatow films, like the Superbad. You got like Seth Rogen and James Franco movies, those Pineapple Express. Yeah, those are the that level of comedy, of like that level of humor. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. I'm drawing a blank right now, but yeah. Judd Apatow does have a decent sense of humor with absurdity. I don't know. Can we reference 90s movies? Adam Sandler, like you got the Happy Gilmores, the Big Daddies. Not I haven't been too much into film as far as lately because there's no movies coming out during the pandemic, and yeah, haven't caught up on films. I did watch Idiocracy the other week, so that's a good movie.
Indeed, most definitely. I love those old Adam Sandler movies like Billy Madison and like
Yeah.
Airhead and stuff. It's
It
good
was
stuff.
the 90s and the 2000s. That was like the peak of comedy for me. Maybe some 2010s, you know.
Indeed, most definitely. And let's see here. If you can get roasted by 5 comedians, past and present, which comedians would you like to get roasted by?
Jesus Christ. Maybe like a Patrice O'Neill, Greg Giraldo for sure, because Greg Giraldo was a hilarious roaster. And I also let's give it up for like a Nikki Glazer. Nikki Glazer, she's Sarah Silverman along the same lines. And tossing a classic like a Rodney Dangerfield. Yeah, I'll take Rodney Dangerfield over Don Rickles. Yeah.
Indeed, most definitely. And where do you see your comedy career in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, probably continuing the outdoor comedy, but a little bit more organized. Getting more people on board and a more organization as far as this goes, because I do see out in the open mic branching out a little bit more. We have done out in the open mic in Milwaukee as well, and we were planning on going to do it in different cities too, because the whole point of that I guess the whole gimmick of out in the open mic was we would announce where we were going to go the next day. So like on a Tuesday, we'd post and be like, hey, Wednesday, we're going to be at this and this park. And it was always different parks that we chose just to keep variety. I'm not sure if that's a good thing, but maybe some people do like the variety and trying to find us at different parks. And some people might just want to be like, hey, let's keep it at the same park. But I do like the idea of variety. So I do want to branch out, maybe go to different cities without in the open mic. Definitely do a lot more shows. I think that this past year gave me more opportunity because I never really got booked on shows. People never really reached out to me to book me on their shows before like the out in the open mic. So, you know, that the mentality of me producing was like, hey, nobody's getting me on shows. I'll just do my own, you know? So I do imagine expanding out in the open mic a lot more, getting a little bit more around, not just in Chicago, trying to branch out to different cities, getting booked on other cities' locations. And that's as far as the comedy goes. I do want to branch out and get more active in it, which I think this year definitely helped.
Indeed, it's a pretty cool thing. Like with the pandemic and everything, and like good and bad. There's some innovative ideas that came out of this whole thing.
Yeah, my friend and my co-producer called me like before the new year just to wish me a happy new year. And like everyone, you got to say, oh, happy new year. Hopefully it's better than the last one, right? But at the same time, 2020 it had a lot of bad parts, but there were good things about it too. It's weird to say. There were good things to say about it. Definitely the comedy got me through a lot of that year, starting from June to October, November-ish. October, because that's when things started going a little bit more rough in Chicago. During that time, that saved my sanity, you know? So there were a lot of bad things of last year, but you got to take away the positives, and the positives were a lot more comedy was done this past year.
Indeed, most definitely. And this, the stand-up speakeasy grew out of the pandemic, so I'm pretty happy about that. And
Yeah.
It's pretty neat to interview all these cool comics from Middle America. It's pretty neat.
Exactly,
such as yourself. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You gotta produce your own. If there's nothing going on in the world, then produce your own thing and try to grow from it. And I do like what you have. Like I mentioned it to you before. I like what you got going on here with Stand Up Speakeasy and your whole YouTube channel. It's very interesting, and it's just gives you a reason to produce more. So congrats for that too.
thank you so much, Greg, and thank you so much for being on and being my guest. And also, which other forms of comedy would you like to venture off into, like improv, sketch, comedy writing, acting, directing, etc.?
I did improv. I did one improv show, and my friend invited me to because I have this dumb catchphrase that I do. It's such a dumb catchphrase, but people will like hit me up and reference it to me. So it's throw a little cheese on it. Dumb catchphrase, I know. So this improv show that I did, it was surrounding cheese. About like everyone picks out a name of cheese from a hat, and then you have to defend that cheese in a bracket style tournament against other cheeses. So I did that improv show. I ended up getting Gouda, and I didn't do Gouda. Yeah, that's a type of. I did one improv show. I'm not quick on my feet that much, but I guess improv does give you a little bit more practice to do that, to be quick on your feet and be funny. So maybe, maybe.
Indeed, most definitely. And what's your favorite joke a comic's ever written?
Uh, wow, that's a good one. So, low. I'm thinking. See, like I haven't been too involved in like the national like scene as much, and watching people's specials like that. Um, as far as a local comic from Chicago, there's a guy named Mike Wiley from the suburbs. He's got great one-liners. He's got this one joke. Oh God, forgive me if I don't do it justice, but he's talking about like going to a palm reader. He was at a palm reader, and the palm reader she looked at my hand and said, "You're going to be flayed, murdered, and someone is going to wear your skin as a glove." Flayed, murdered, and someone's going to wear your skin as a glove. So I'm walking around the house just worried. I'm going to be flayed, murdered, and someone's going to wear my skin as a glove. And then I look down at my hand, and I realized I didn't take my leather glove off when she was doing the palm reading. So, so Mike Wiley's got a lot of great one-liners. He was also one of those comedians I watched at the theater early in my comedy scene career.
That's awesome. And what experience would you like your audience to leave after a set is over?
Should I well, the funny answer is to throw a little cheese on it, but the right answer, I guess, the experience, we want you to, whenever I'm doing a show, just have a good time and just enjoy the absurdity and the stupidity at times. It can get really absurd, but I do enjoy just having people come and watch a funny show, have some laughs, and just have fun, because we need that. We definitely need that, especially after going through things like this past year. Whatever else that's happening that's bad in your life, hey, just take a moment to come and laugh, and that's it. Because I want to have fun telling you, and hopefully you enjoy these jokes that I wrote.
Indeed, most definitely. And with every interview that I conduct with the stand-up speakers, I hope to raise money for the comics, because a lot of you all are out of work and because of the lockdown and everything. And so Greg's Venmo is scrolling on the bottom. And also, I try to raise funds for nonprofit organizations and charities. And so we decided to raise funds for Operation for Mikey on GoFundMe. So why did you pick Operation for Mikey?
Because that was a little bit more closer to me. Honestly, it was a GoFundMe that we had to put together because my cat actually had some kind of problem with his urination, so he needed a very big operation. I did not really want it to put together a GoFundMe. Someone just kind of put the thought in the back of my head, and after all of these expenses that I got from the hospital and everything, I was like, well, maybe it's worth it to see if people would help. And we did get a lot of help so far. It did help with a lot of his expenses. We're still working on them, but that GoFundMe is still there. It'll still be open for a little while, just to try to help some funds after this whole experience that happened to me, and it happened after at the end of 2020. You know, like 2020 had to get one last thing in. So this just was an unfortunate event, and thanks to my friend who told me to start this thing up, I guess I kind of tossed it out there, and we raised a decent amount. And I appreciate everyone who helped out throughout the time.
Indeed. So if you can out there, donate to Mikey and Greg's Venmo and all that. All those funds will help Mikey out and his doctor bills and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And so the stand-up speaking is like kind of like Prohibition during the Roaring '20s back in the day. And so it's like, and since you've been, referred and nominated from previous guests, that's the only way that all the comics can come into the Speakeasy, is if they know somebody that knows somebody.
Gotcha.
So with that being said, Greg, that's like the only rule pretty much on the Speakeasy. But with that being said, which Chicago comics would you like to see on the show, on a future show of the stand-up Speakeasy?
As far as people that helped produce in this last year, there's one guy that I really do think deserves a lot of credit for what he did last year too. Donovan Strong O'Donnell from the Chicago scene. He ran a mic show that was ran opposite to mine. I really wanted to go hang out and see his shows, but we were busy with our shows. It's called the Comedy Pickup, and they got an insane amount of followers and people that went to their shows too. So he's a very big guy that I would like to nominate, I guess, for give him credit for this past year. Other people, maybe like a Todd Glover. He's a friend of mine that did also produce some shows in the parks this past summer. Also at the same time that I would be running my show, so I wouldn't be able to go see it. But he's a good friend of mine. He does support a lot of comedians too throughout their careers here, and he's a close friend and he's a good comedian. He's a funny guy. He's been doing it for a couple of decades. So also someone that I'm close with and I look up to.
Indeed, most definitely. I'll definitely reach out to those fine folks and all that good stuff. And Greg, I wanted to remind the audience at home that please follow Greg on all those Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Donate to his GoFundMe, visit his link tree, and donate to his Venmo. Subscribe to his YouTube. They're all scrolling on the bottom there, and also beneath this video. So it's easier to click and copy and paste if you need to into those browser things. But Greg, are there any final words you'd like to give out to the audience at home?
Listen, we got through 2020. We got through it. We're still here. You know, there's still a lot more to be done before the end of this pandemic, and life returns back to normal. So let's just try to keep connected, because that's the one thing. You just got to keep connected with your friends, even if it's online or through the phone, text, whatever. Reach out to someone, even though we got to be distant, get close. That's what a cliche thing to say, but even though we're distant, get close with someone. We'll get through this together, and then get back to comedy and throw a little cheese on it.
Absolutely. Make sure that cheese is from Wisconsin too. So.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Greg, thank you so much for being my guest on the Stand Up Speakeasy, and it means a lot to me. And I'm going to be going to do a festival in Chicago in October, hopefully, if the pandemic goes away, and hopefully I get to meet you in person. And
dude, that would be great. You know, hopefully we do have decent enough weather and things are okay, that out in the open mic is going to be running up again. And if you're ever in Chicago, reach out. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll definitely do that. And thank you so much. And you rock, dude. And it's great talking with you.
Hey, thanks. It was fun talking to you, Sarath, and thanks for having me on the podcast. It was unexpected, but this was a fun time, and I'm glad you got to hear me out. So thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I'll piece everything together and I'll send it your way after we go off there. So
awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Be well, and I'll see everyone next time on the Stand Up Speakeasy. Be well, everyone.